if you're taking Calc 4 now, it's actually pretty relevant for at least some of the stuff in this class. Like for solving linear systems of equations. Okay, Amir's a junior. I think most of you are probably freshmen or sophomores. Fresh meat. Yeah, Chem 123. That was rough when I took that. When I took Chem 23, I had... Oh, well, I mean, that was such a long time ago now, I forget his name, but it wasn't Tao, it was someone else.
It wasn't Tao? Oh,
no.
Never mind.
Yeah, I forget his name. I think it was his first time teaching, and obviously he's not teaching now. No, it wasn't Lee. It was like a long last name. Okay, I'm gonna wait maybe just a minute or two more, because I think we're missing a few people. I think I saw someone say they're taking the circuits lab too. I mean, any lab online is kind of weird, but... Or the circuits class too, that's tough. I think when I took that, like 60% for that class was a B. Yeah. I think that guy, I'm sure he's not teaching anymore. I had Wasserman. I think that was his name for that class. And he was like, I think, like no joke, I think he was like 80 years old and he was still teaching. But probably retired now. Yeah. He's a cool guy, but yeah, I'm sure he wants to retire. At least I would. Okay, so we'll get started now. Even if we're missing one or two people, it's time. So let me share my screen. Also, I have my mic, so it should sound a whole lot better. That issue is finally fixed. Also, you know, I usually record these lectures. But last time when I was recording, if you guys remember, my main computer, it froze, and I don't know why. That didn't happen at all last semester. So, kind of weird. But since it froze, I couldn't get the recording, so I don't have that on YouTube. So, hopefully it doesn't freeze today. Because, you know, you guys... Often, you know, you'll look at the recordings to help yourself out if you want to refresh yourself on something. So hopefully it doesn't crash today. If it does, then I don't know. I'll start recording on my other, on my MacBook, but that gets pretty loud. So hopefully I don't have to do that. Okay, before I get started, I want to go over a few more things on Canvas. So let me go to Student View. Okay, so if you're on the... Oh, there's a question. Regarding homework and quizzes, how will these be given and submitted? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So, homework, I'm going to assign your first homework probably next week. And, so homework, I'll post it probably as a PDF, and you'll just download the PDF. But for submitting the homework, most likely... I kind of did it a few different times last semester. You will either submit an M file, which is a Matlab script file, which we'll talk about today, or you will just copy and paste all of your code in a text box on Canvas. So I'll tell you either way though. And for quizzes, we're going to have that towards the end of class, not today, but when we have a quiz, that'll be at the end of class. It'll be usually 15 minutes, and most of them will be one question. We're not going to have one question for the first quiz just because the stuff you're learning now is so simple. You know, or so... I don't want to like say it's super easy, but I mean it kind of is. It's very basic stuff. So you probably have a few questions for the first quiz, and that'll be on Canvas as well. So it'll be timed and you can see the timer on it. And once we start to approach the quiz date, I'll actually show you guys what it's going to look like too. and you'll just copy and paste your answers in a text box again on Canvas. So does that make sense, or any questions on that? Okay, yeah. But yeah, I'll show you guys what that's going to look like once we actually start to approach having a quiz. Probably won't be next week, but it'll be the week after, so the third week of this semester. I'm just guessing, but it's, pretty fluid. Okay, so right now I'm on the course homepage. So a few things that I want to kind of go over that I didn't last time. If you click on this week, you saw a lot of this last time, but usually I will post the lecture video. So down here on Wednesday, I put TPB, or TBP, sorry, for to be posted. So I'll post this, once it's done processing today. And then I also have, this section here for important links. And here I have the lecture slides for today. So you can download those if you want. Maybe some of you already saw it. I put it up kind of late last night. So if you download them, I have all the stuff that I plan on getting to today. I don't know if we'll actually get through all of it, but because there is a good amount of stuff here. But you can download that. And I usually post it kind of like I mentioned late the night before. So I know that's pretty close to class, but that's usually when I kind of edit some stuff and then I upload it then. So you can look at that. The other thing is for like homework assignments, I'll post, for this week too. We're not going to have homework this week, but if you're assigned homework, I'll put that under the important links section. But if you don't want to kind of hunt for where it's at let me go to the homepage. If you don't want to kind of hunt for where that homework link is in our tentative schedule here, you can go on the left-hand side, click on Files. And basically, I'm going to have a folder for homework. So I can actually make this right now. So I'm going to put new folder, homework, and then I'll also have a folder for homework solutions. So for you guys, you can just click on Files and you can access all of the homeworks here. So there's nothing yet, so it's empty. And same thing with the solutions. Once I post those, you can look at them here. And then same thing for lectures. So right now, I do have one thing in here, and that's today's slides for the lecture. So you can click on that there and download it. And then course materials, right now it's just the syllabus. Okay, so I would just make sure, or I would recommend clicking on Files because that's just a more kind of localized place where you can get everything that you might want to download. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to go over for that. Yeah, okay. But remember today, once the lecture is processed on YouTube, which takes a while, it takes like 2 hours or something, I'm gonna put the link right here and you can watch that. Okay, so any questions on Canvas or anything before we get started for today? Okay, so hopefully all of you have Matlab installed now because we're going to be using it today. So let me move some stuff around here. So open up Matlab, and we're going to be going over some of the basic stuff today. Okay, so I have Matlab opened up right now. I'm going to change something just so it looks more like what you guys have. I'm going to change my color scheme here. So if any of you weren't able to get it installed, make sure that you message me in Discord or something, or stay after class and we'll figure that out. But I think all of you were able to get it installed. Colors here. Okay. And I'm going to make the font a bit larger so you can read it a bit better. Do 22. Okay. I don't know why the section is like this. Give me a sec. Okay. I might need to close out of it, open it up again. So when I'm opening up MATLAB, I have this kind of background message. You guys aren't going to have that for PC or Mac, so disregard that. Okay, so your MATLAB should look like this right now. This kind of background color that I have here is dark gray. On your computer, it's probably like a yellow color. That doesn't matter. We're going to change the color scheme anyways for today's lecture. I'm going to show you how to do that. So kind of disregard that. It doesn't matter. It's just for visual sake. Okay, so let's actually make this large. So I have a few slides here to kind of give more background on MATLAB and why we, what the motivation is for programming in general. So we'll go over this kind of quick. We talked about it a bit last time, so I'm just going to go through it a bit. So first thing, we're going to be using MATLAB for the vast majority of this course, probably all of it, to be honest. But if we have time at the very end, we're going to go over Python. Very basic stuff in Python, just to show you the kind of transition from your MATLAB knowledge to Python. So MATLAB, if you're not a student, you have to pay for a license, which is like, I don't know, it's like $500 or something insane. So unless you're working for a company that uses MATLAB, you're probably not going to have MATLAB, right? You're only going to be using it. Maybe, probably, but I'm not really sure, to be honest, how easy or obviously not very ethical, but yeah, you would have to look into that yourself. But Python is free, and it's used everywhere. So Python is something that's good to learn, on your own if you have time or if you're interested. And again, some of the knowledge that you have in MATLAB is going to be able to be transferred over to Python. So Python is really good, and I think even MATLAB, they actually use Python for some of their own code. So basically, if you type in a function in MATLAB, there's some Python code running in the background to actually carry out that function. But again, we're going to talk about Python if we have time. I didn't last semester, so I'm guessing we won't this semester, but hopefully we can go over it at least a bit because, again, it's useful. Okay, so this class, we're going to be going over these chapters in this book. So I mentioned it last time, but you don't need to get the book. My lectures should be detailed enough where you don't need it. But if you want some more reading or you want to see something that's more in depth, I don't really think it will be too much more in depth. But if you want to just kind of read through the lectures in a different context, you can get the book if you want. And again, you can find this online with your own methods, okay? So we're going to be going over an overview of MATLAB. That's just the intro to MATLAB, which we're starting today. After that, we're going to talk about arrays, which is the most important chapter in this class. Chapter 3 is functions and files, so that'll be like importing data into MATLAB, and we'll talk about some important functions that are inside of MATLAB that we use often. Then chapter 4 is programming. That's also probably, I guess, the second most important chapter in this class. And then we have plotting. We'll talk about plotting before we do programming. Just because plotting is a little more basic than programming, and I feel like plotting, you kind of feel like you've achieved something, or you've learned all of this stuff with arrays and functions and files, and then you can apply that to actually visualize something. So we're going to go over plotting before programming. And then model building and regression, that is its own chapter, but we're going to talk about at least part of this earlier on, actually in chapter 1, I think chapter 1. And then statistics, probability, and interpolation. At least last semester what I did is I went over some of this, but these two chapters here, chapter 6 and chapter 7, they're not as important in my view compared to some very fundamental stuff like arrays and programming. So we'll go over as much as we can for chapter 6 and chapter 7, but they're not going to be a big emphasis in this class. And then Chapter 8 is linear algebraic equations. So that's basically, the main focus for that will be solving a linear systems of equations. So I know one of you, at least one of you, is taking Calc 4 right now, which is differential equations and linear algebra. So this will be very relevant to you, and solving a linear system of equations is, you're going to use that very often, throughout a lot of your courses. And if you're writing a program in MATLAB to solve something, you're often going to be solving a linear system of equations. So just to give you some context, for one of my classes I took last semester, actually a few classes that are like tech electives, basically for a project, what I had to do was model, for example, this was like for a computational heat transfer class. We were modeling a differential equation, which was the heat equation. I know a lot of you haven't taken heat transfer yet, but just go with it for now. So we were modeling the heat equation, which is a differential equation, and you can convert that into a linear system of equations so your computer can solve for it, and you can solve for it using MATLAB. And it's much more efficient doing that through MATLAB than solving for it by hand. So that's kind of the motivation for why we'd want to do something like this in MATLAB. Okay, let's go on here. So in Python, again, if we have time, we'll also go over something called Bokeh, which is a library for Python for interactive plotting. So basically, this is really just the cherry on top if we can get to it, but it's a really nice plotting tool. So here you can kind of see that you can make a drop-down menu to have like an interactive plot, but I doubt we're going to get to that, to be honest. But if we can, it'll be good. Again, just the cherry on top kind of thing. Okay, so why would we actually want to program in general? We can organize and post-process our data. So often we're going to collect data as engineers or engineering students, like in a lab or something. And we will import that data into MATLAB, and then we can organize that data and then post-process it, and then we'll do some visualization or something like that to actually reach a conclusion on what that experiment is telling us.
Patrick, sorry if I came in late. I had some problems with my previous class, so I came in late. Sorry about that.
That's
Did I
fine.
miss anything? Did I miss anything important?
No, I'm just going over kind of some motivation for MATLAB right now, and then we're going to start with some basic MATLAB stuff in a few minutes.
So is the slide in the canvas?
Yeah, this is on Canvas. If you look at the tentative schedule on the bottom of the home page, you can find the slides there.
I see. That's everything you went, right? Just a slide.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
went over a few slides.
Thank you.
Okay, so another thing that we can do is use for loops, which will be in chapter 4, I think, that's programming. So we're going to be using for loops to quickly complete a task that's going to require iteration. So if we want to do some calculation a certain amount of times that we already know in advance, we can use a for loop to do this much faster than doing it, line by line by hand or typing out each line in MATLAB. That'll make more sense once we go over it too. Okay, so visualizing data through plotting, that's basically what's going to be our project, something like this. So you saw last semester we did this for COVID-19 data, so we'll have something new this time, but basically you're going to be organizing your data like we talked about here. You're going to be using for loops to sort through and process that data, and then you're going to visualize it with plotting. Okay, solving large linear systems of equations, we just talked about that. We can solve complex mathematical problems faster and easier than by hand. So we also kind of talked about that. That could be like when you convert a differential equation and you can solve that numerically using something like MATLAB. And kind of the same thing down below as the previous bullet point. Okay, so that's kind of the motivation of why we'd want to use MATLAB, but now we can actually finally start to use MATLAB itself. So we're going to start out with the layout, so it's going to be pretty basic, and we went over this last class, but I'll go over it again today, and I'll go over it a bit slower as well. Let me make this full screen again. So when you first open up MATLAB, it should look something like this. If it's not the same, you can click on Layout. So go to the Home tab here, and then you'll see that you have this button called Layout. First, I want to make sure everyone has MATLAB opened up right now, right? Just put in the chat or whatever. Okay. Okay, good. So again, if you're on the Home tab, you can click on a layout, but by default, you should have your Matlab layout that looks something like this. You probably don't have this editor window open by default, so I'll close out of that. And if you click on a layout, you can just click on default, and you see that for me it changed a bit. So let me move my camera. I noticed that with Zoom, if I want to move where my camera is located when I record, I have to stop sharing my screen, then I have to share it again, and then it'll update the position. Kind of weird. Okay, so this is the default layout. So you see here in the center, we have this window called the command window. So here, we can type out, well, really anything, but so I can do some math operations here, like 5 plus 5, and if I press enter, it'll give me an answer of 10. So for the first week or two, we're probably going to live in the command window for a while, and then we're going to start to use the editor window to make a script. So once we make a script, we'll be able to save all of the stuff that we typed out in that script, and we can run it again later on whenever we want. If we're in the command window, then we can't actually really save this for later on. We can access previous commands, which we'll go over in a bit, but you can't really save it for use for later on or for a different computer. Okay. So this is, again, the command window. We're going to be living in here for a lot of the first few weeks. And if you look on the left-hand side, you see up here it says current folder. So this shows where I'm currently at. So you can also see the path up here on this strip here. So you see for my computer, I'm currently in my home directory and then under Patrick, my name. So if you are running a script, most likely you will have your script, stored in probably your school folder. So let me go to mine. So here, right here, this is actually a script file. So if I double click on this right now, then it opens up my script file. And you see right here, the command window, it went away, and instead I have this editor window. Now the command window still is here. It's actually to the right. But I can run this script now. And this is why we would like to use a script later on, so we can actually save everything that's inside of our script, and we can, modify things, or we can run it on a different computer, or whatever our need might be, we can actually save everything inside of that script. But we'll talk about that a bit later on. Okay, so editor window, just talked about that. So this is also kind of how I'm going to do all of our lectures. I have slides that I always use, and I kind of tuck it in the bottom right hand corner, and I'll go through each slide kind of in real time. So I have the slides for myself and for you, but I'm not just going to read off the slides. I'm actually going to show you stuff on MATLAB itself. So in this command window, and in a script file too, I should say, we can suppress output. So if I do 5 plus 5, then if I press enter, right below this, I'm going to get ANS equals 10. So that's answer equals 10. By default, MATLAB assigns this variable ANS for answer. So we talked about this last time too. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but if I do like 2 plus 7, this variable ANS is going to be overwritten now. So it's going to be updated to a value of 9. So this variable ANS, it's also stored in our workspace over here. So the workspace is where all of our variables are stored that we create in the command window or in a script file. So now if I do x equals 5, I'm assigning a value of 5 to this variable x. So if I press enter, then x, that's going to show up in the workspace. Let me drag this out. So you'll see here that it'll show the name of the variable and the actual value of that variable as well. Okay, I'm going to clear this. I'll talk about that command in a second. But in the slide here, what I want to get to is talking about how to suppress output. So let's do y equals 4, and I'll press enter. And you see that when I press enter, y equals 4, that shows up below in this kind of fashion. That takes up a lot of space, and we often don't need to see that output because I just assigned a value of y equals 4. So if we want to make a new variable like z equals 10, but I don't want to see this output below, I can just put a semicolon. And now if I press enter, we don't get that output that kind of repeats what we just assigned below. So this value, it's still stored inside of Matlab. You can see in our workspace over here. We have a value, and my camera just cut out again. I need to fix that issue too. So we have our variable z, and that was assigned a value of 10. But we were able to suppress this output because, we don't need to see that in this specific instance. Okay, also, if I want to just check a value of a variable in my command window, I can do that as well. So if I type in z and I press enter, it'll tell me z equals 10. If I type in y, it'll say y equals 4. So I can do that for anything. I can even type in ANS, and then I'll say ANS equals 9, which we can
But if you type
in the rate.
y semicolon and then enter.
Yeah, if we type in y semicolon and enter, then there will be nothing because we suppressed that output.
Oh my gosh, it's so much easier than C. Nah, no, like I'm not even joking. Like when I first time learned C, oh my gosh, like I have no clue what you're doing. Like I'm like I don't know. Like I'm still like wondering why that code does that, but it's like much easier to understand compared to C. Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty intuitive in MATLAB, so that's good to hear though. Okay, let's see.
Real quick, so MATLAB isn't its own coding just to make sure it's C# or just C?
MATLAB does have their own specific code that they like their own language, but a lot of their code actually runs like I know Python for sure. Some of their functions run Python in the background. I'm not sure if anything runs C. I don't think it does, but
oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Geez, have a lot of you guys taken C or C++ or any of that?
I have. That's why I was asking.
Wow.
I actually did for my previous college. Yeah, the courses like I don't recommend for beginners. It's you're not probably gonna understand.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Some of you guys have background in any type of programming. That's good. But yeah, the assumption for this class is that all of you have no experience. But if you do have experience, it's going to be easier for you. Okay, so let's talk about command recall. So far I've typed out a few variables that I've made here, like x, y, and z. So if I want to kind of recall that, I can press the up arrow on my keyboard. And then I can see the previous commands that I've typed in the command window. So this little box will come up, and I can keep scrolling up by pressing the up arrow. Or I can scroll with my mouse if I want. And I can see everything that I've typed in recently. So if I keep going up here, now I'm already into last semester. But yeah, I can use the up arrow. Question?
Yeah, what did you press again?
So I was in the command window here, and I'll just press the up arrow on my keyboard.
Wait, so you press Command and up arrow?
No, so I'm in the command window. So you see
Command
right here it
windows?
says
Okay,
command
yeah.
window.
I see it.
But all I'm doing is I'm only pressing the up arrow on the keyboard.
Oh, up arrow in the keyboard. Okay, I see.
Okay, so again in this case I can then access the previous commands that I've just typed in this command window. So if I want to like edit this line here, z equals 10, I can go to that line so you see it's kind of highlighted in gray here. And then I can press the left arrow on the keyboard, and now I can edit this line. So let's make it like z equals 15. And if you look over on the right hand side, currently in the workspace, z has a value of 10. If I press enter, that's going to update to 15. And you see that it does. Okay, so any questions so far? I know we're doing like really basic stuff, but I want to go slow just so it's not overwhelming in the beginning.
So did you just press Z for 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now we'll talk about the workspace a bit more. So the workspace, as we talked about before, this is where our variables are stored. So far we've defined all of these variables here. Answer, x, y, and z. So you can see the value for each of these variables just right here. But if we have something like a vector, which we'll do, actually we'll do that now. If you have like a really large vector, you won't be able to see all of those values for that vector. So I'm going to type CLC. This is going to clear all of the text in my command window, but it's going to preserve the variables that are in my workspace. Oh, yeah, Brandon, that was convenient timing. So yeah, I just pressed CLC or typed in CLC. So there's a question, how do you clear the command window while keeping the data? So you type in CLC to do that. So I'm just going to type random stuff. So if I type in CLC, it's going to clear all of the text here, but my workspace will be preserved. And if I wanted to delete everything in the workspace, I would type in clear. Okay. So right now I'm going to define a vector. So a vector is just going to be a collection of numbers. So in this case, I'm going to do a row vector. We'll talk about how to actually make these later on. So I'm going to make this now, but we'll actually discuss the kind of theory behind it later on. So if I press enter now, you see that A has this collection of numbers, 10, 2, 3, 5, and 8. So this is a row vector because it's on a row.
Can you put commas in between the values just so it's easier to read for you, or would it give an error?
That's a good question. Yeah, I could put commas in between too. So, right now I'm going to edit that command. So I'm going to press up on my keyboard and I'll put a comma in between or after each number. Okay. So yeah, you can do either or and it's going to do the same thing. So for me, I will often not put a comma because I think for me that's easier to read, but you can definitely put a comma as well. So yeah, good question. Okay, so A, this is now a row vector. So if we look in the workspace here, it's, somewhat truncated here. I don't see that last value of 8. I could drag this out if it will drag out. Sometimes it sticks. There we go. So I could drag it out and I could see 8, but imagine we had a row vector with like 100 values in that vector. I want to be able to see it all in the workspace here. So if we want to see it all, we can just double click on a variable that we have in the workspace. So I'm going to double click on A, and this window will pop up. It might actually just make a new tab in your Matlab window over here, but how I currently have it set up, which I'll talk about in a bit, it's going to open up a whole new window for me. Okay, so this will open up this whole new window, and if I make this larger, you can see that on the bottom here we have like a scroller, so I can, if you imagine that we had 100 numbers here, I could just scroll through it and see every value. Yeah, it does look like Excel. It's kind of, yeah, just a spreadsheet kind of presentation of all of your variables. It's not actually Excel, but yeah, it looks like Excel. Okay, so I'm going to close out of that. Also, you'll see that if I hover over a variable in the workspace, it shows me the size. So if I hover over A, it says it's a 1 by 5 double. So 1, that means the amount of columns that we have, or sorry, amount of rows. So we have 1 row and we have 5 columns. So you can kind of see that right here, right? We only have 1 row here, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. And if I hover over X, it's going to show us that it's just the size of 1 by 1. So 1 by 1 means 1 row and 1 column. And you also see that it says double. So for MATLAB, double basically, I just kind of simplify, it just means a number. Okay, let's see. So yeah, we discussed all of that. That's good. Okay, let's I'm going to do another example here, and again, we'll talk about this once we actually go over the arrays chapter.
If you put an array within an array, would that count as a second column or what?
If I did what?
Put an array inside an array, would that count as a second column?
I don't really know what you mean by that.
Like multi-dimensional arrays, would that count as a second column?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to make a matrix right now, and we'll see how that looks. So if I make a matrix here, which again we're going to talk about in chapter 2, but I'll do 3, 2, 3, so that's going to be our first row, and I'll do 3, 9, 8, whatever, it doesn't matter. So to make a whole new row, we put a semicolon.
Oh, okay.
So if I press enter, then now I have a matrix. Did that kind of answer your question, by the way?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
What if you put an array inside an array, though? What would that look like?
So I think you're implying that if I did something like this.
Uh-huh.
So here, I don't think this would work. Yeah, well, one, I don't have B defined, but if I do like A and 3, yeah, it's not going to work because the dimensions are different. So I would have to put A, and then I would have to make a whole new array that was the same size of A. So I could do that, but the dimensions would have to be the same. Okay, let's clear this. So yeah, I have my matrix A here. I don't want to, get too complicated here. I just want to show you guys that if I go in the workspace here, it's now going to show me the size as a 2 by 3 double. So that just means 2 rows and 3 columns. So we have 1 row, second row, and then 1 column, second, and then the third column.
Wait, so Patrick, so you were you just doing a matrix?
Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about that in chapter 2. I just wanted to show you guys that it would show that size in the workspace as a 2 by 3.
So what was the conclusion you were trying to do, and like what were you trying to show us exactly?
I'm just showing you how the workspace over here shows you the size of all of your variables.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so if you have a scalar, so just one number, you'll see that this says x, that has a size of 1 by 1. Z, same thing, it has the size of 1 by 1. But our matrix A here, that's different, right? That's a size of 2 by 3. So if I hover over that, it'll show us a 2 by 3 double. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Okay, so now we're on the save your retinas part. So we're going to take, I guess, a little like breather here. So I know at least last semester, a lot of people, they wanted a kind of dark mode kind of theme, which I know I do. If you're working with MATLAB at night and your room is dark, if you were using this screen here, it would suck. So we'll talk about how to get a dark mode. Okay, so if you want to get dark mode, is there a question? No? Okay. So MATLAB doesn't have like a dark mode theme on their own built in, so you need to install an add-on for that, which all of these add-ons, they're approved by MATLAB, so don't worry about that. But to do that, we're going to click on add-ons up top here. Make sure that you're on the home page, which you should be. Okay, and then here, by default, we're going to be in this search bar here. And I'm going to type in schemer and press enter. And you'll see the first one, it should be MATLAB Schemer by Scott Lowe. And this is what we're going to install. So if you click on this, you're going to have an option right around here where it says to install it. So click on install, and it should be, a very quick install. It's only 493 kilobytes, so it should be very fast. And then once you do that, we're going to click on manage add-ons up top here. So I'm just going to give you guys like a minute just in case anyone missed that. So again, the add-on that we have, if I go back, all I did was type in schemer in this search bar, and I clicked on the first result, which should be MATLAB Schemer by Scott Lowe. Okay, so from here we can click on manage add-ons, or what would be better is actually just click on open folder right here. So if you click on open folder, you'll see on the left hand side in MATLAB it changed where our current directory was in. So it went to this folder for the add-on that we just installed. So I'm going to close out of this add-on window now. And here, if I double click on Scott C. Lowe, it's going to go into that folder. And then I can double click on schemes. You don't have to do this, I'm just showing you that all of these are the schemes that are installed for this add-on by default. I should say besides Dracula. So I installed this by myself somewhere else, but everything on here besides Dracula, that's a default scheme for this add-on. Okay, so how can we actually apply a theme? You can just, go through each one here and see what looks good, but to actually apply the theme in your command window, so the window that we're currently in here, we're going to type in the command schemer import. Make sure you have this underscore, put a space, and then you're going to put the theme that you want to apply. So I'll do monokai, .prf. And you need to make sure that you have .prf at the end. Press enter, and then our color scheme is applied. Okay, so any questions on that? I know it's not like, some educational thing, but I think a lot of students prefer to have a dark theme. So I just wanted to go over that.
So can you show us again? I just opened my MATLAB up and I was lost.
Yeah, I can show it again. So the first thing we're going to do, make sure you're on this home tab here, and you're going to click on add-ons.
So add-ons?
And then by default, you should be on the search bar here to search for an add-on, and you're going to type in schemer.
Schemer. Okay, where's the add-on?
Did you put it in the search bar, schemer?
Wait, where do I find that?
You click on add-ons right here. Did you do that?
Oh, okay, all right. Add-ons, okay.
And then you're gonna search for schemer.
Schemer, okay.
So type in schemer, press enter, and then it should be the first result.
Schemer.
Okay. Do you see it?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, so you're just gonna click on that, and then right around here you should have an install option. So you'll install it, and then all you have to do is go to the command window and type in a command similar to what I typed in. So you do schemer_import.
Schemer_imports, okay.
And then you put whatever theme that you want. So on my screen, you can see all the themes that they have. Besides Dracula, I installed that by myself separately. But let's type in like oblivion.prf If I type in enter, I guess it didn't do it. Let me do it again. Schemer, let's do default. Default.prf. Why is it not doing it now? Maybe I need to go into the actual folder again. Okay, question, do we download it wherever, or does it need to be in a specific file location? No, it should just be by default. It should go into this folder called Matlab add-ons. So that should work by default.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Oh, so when it's because I have the option to add, so I click add to Matlab.
You had like a pop-up that said that?
No, it's just because I'm in the Matlab schemer, and it only gives me two options: add to Matlab and download only.
I would have to see that after class or something. So you can either stay on the call after class or send me like a picture in Discord.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you want to switch it back to normal. Okay, sorry, there's a lot of comments. Okay, if you want to switch it back to normal, you can click on Preferences on the Home tab. And then you want to click on Colors. And then you'll have an option right here that says Restore Default Colors. So you can click on that and then click Apply and then OK. Also, you should be able to just use the command schemer import default.prf. And that should work too. Okay, and like I somewhat mentioned, you can actually install different themes too. So I installed one that's called Dracula.prf. That's one that I like. So if you just look up Dracula Matlab theme on Google, you should be able to find it. Or you can even make your own, but I don't want to...
what does it look like?
Let's see if it actually works here. Dracula.prf. Yeah, there it is. So if I type in like a for loop, you see that it has different syntax highlighting for different commands. So this color scheme is like pink, purple, and yellow. If you look it up on Google too, you can see like more pictures that show how it looks. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time on that because it's just a cosmetic kind of thing, but that's something that I think a lot of people like. Yeah, I think a lot of students last semester used the matrix theme. Okay, I will show you one more thing before we continue on with some of the basic MATLAB commands. And that's using MATLAB inside of a text editor. So this I doubt too many of you will be that interested in, but personally I really like it. So I'm going to switch my window here. And currently I'm actually in MATLAB right now. So right now I'm actually in a script file. So this is MATLAB inside of a text editor. So you can think of it like Notepad on a PC. That's a text editor. So I'm using one that's called Vim. But you see here, this is my command window right here on the right hand side. So I can type in 5 plus 3 and you see answer equals 8. So here on the right hand side, that's the command window, and on the left is my editor window. And if I want to see my workspace, I can type in workspace and that'll open up here. So I personally like this because in my text editor I have functionality where I can like type in well, I guess I won't talk about that part, but I mostly like it just because it's like a true dark theme here. There's nothing that's white, still like MATLAB here, like this top toolbar. That's still kind of annoying at night. But if any of you are interested in something like this, just send me a message in Discord and I can help you out. But I'm guessing not too many are, but I just wanted to mention it in case. Okay, so now let's actually continue on with a more relevant topic here. I'm going to reset my color scheme again. Okay. And if you guys weren't able to follow along with that, you can just look at this lecture after when I upload it. Okay, so let's talk about comments. Okay, so comments, they're going to be a good way to label what you're actually coding. So If you use a comment, basically it's like a little explanation for what you're actually typing out for your code. So it's useful for you if you're going back later on and you're looking at like a script you wrote or something. You can better remember or understand what you were typing out for each section of code. So to type out a comment, and by the way, a comment is not going to be run by Matlab. So to show you this, if I type in x equals 5, and I'm going to put a semicolon to suppress that output. So I'm going to type in x equals 5, and you'll see this show up in the workspace over here. Okay, so that does. But now if I first put in a percent sign, and let's type in y equals 3. Because I put a percent sign in the beginning of this line, MATLAB isn't going to run this as a command. So you see I pressed an enter and nothing showed up on the workspace. So because I have this percent sign, MATLAB basically ignores this line. So comments using a percent sign, again, it's a way for us to kind of explain what we're doing in our code. So for example, once we start making scripts, we would often do something like put a comment like clear the memory, and right below that we would put clear and then CLC. But that would be in a script file and not in the command window. But the main takeaway for this is a comment using a percent sign. It's a way for us to explain what we're doing for our code. Okay, so I can also do something like x equals 3, and then on the same line and after it I can put a comment there. So I'll say, I don't know, assigning a value to x. So x equals 3, this is now, it is going to show up in the workspace, but this comment here, that's not going to be run by MATLAB because I have this percent sign. So if I press an enter, we see x equals 3, that shows up in the workspace. Alright, any questions on comments?
Wait, so I'm just not clear. So why percentage?
If you put in a percent sign, then that will register as a comment for MATLAB.
So it will register, okay. Okay.
So if I type in this is a comment, MATLAB, it knows that it's a comment, so it's not going to try to run it as like a command.
So
It basically ignores it completely. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just
so
for
it
you
doesn't
to
matter
read it.
basically.
Yeah, it's for you. It's for you to read what you're actually doing. It helps with readability. If you're making a script and it's, like 500 lines of code, you want to use comments throughout so you can see what you're doing in each section of that code. So like if I was, doing a math problem, right, and I wanted to understand later on what I was doing in each step, I would write a comment. Okay, yes, to clear the workspace, you type in clear. And then to clear all of the text, you type in CLC. Okay. Alright, so basic command usage. We've done some of this by now, but we'll go over it again just to be thorough. So our math operations, they're going to work as we would generally expect them to work. So if I want to do addition, I just do addition like you would expect. The spacing doesn't matter, so here I put a space before and after the plus sign. I could do just 3 plus, 3, and that works too. Subtraction, same kind of thing. Works just like you would think. Multiplication, that works the same way too. You're going to put a star, so 2 times 3, 6. I can do it like this, doesn't matter. A lot of the time, I personally put a space before and after an operation just because I think it's easier to read that way, but it's up to you. Square root, yeah, we'll talk about that. So to do that, we do SQRT and then in parentheses, whatever number you want to find.
All right. How about power?
Power, we're going to do a caret sign. But we're going to talk about those kind of different math operations in a bit.
So MATLAB could use as like a calculator too. Like, can it use like a basic, or can it only be used as a basic, or can you do complex calculator too?
You can do complex stuff. I think there's actually even some calculus functions built in, so you can find like derivatives and integrals in MATLAB too. Yeah, we're not going to go over that in this class, but it can do complex math too. Okay, and division. So, yes, it does have a modulus operator. I forget the exact function off the top of my head, but you can look that up. Okay, so division, that's going to work as you would think too. So we're going to put a forward slash for that. So 10 divided by 2, that'll be 5. And a backslash, that's going to be called left-hand division. So a backslash will be used once we solve linear systems of equations, which we'll talk about later on. Okay, so yeah, okay, Ethan, you were wondering because in C++ they use the percent sign, and MATLAB uses it for comments. Yeah, there's a function for the modulus operator, but again, I forget off the top of my head, but you could Google that, and it should take you directly to the documentation for that. Okay, so here are some more commands. We've already gone over a few of these, but let's type in, I don't know, x equals 3, y equals 5. And you see here in my workspace, I have variables of a and s, x, and y. So if I wanted to clear only one of those, let's say I want to clear the value of x, I type in clear, and then I type in the variable x. And that'll only clear that specific variable. Okay, if I type in who, that's going to show all of the variables that I currently have in my workspace. So, you know, this would be useful, I guess, if you have a lot of variables in your workspace. But usually, you know, at least for this class, we're going to be able to visually see all of them just on the right-hand side. And if we type in whos, so who with an s at the end, it's going to show us all of our variables in the workspace, but it'll also show the size, so the actual rows and columns that we have, and then the memory size. So here, our variables, they're only 8 bytes, really small. It'll show us the class. So remember, a double, that just means a number inside of MATLAB. And then attributes. So here, there's nothing for attributes. And I'm not even really sure what this would be usually. Usually all we're concerned with is the class and the size. And we'll talk about classes later on as well. So far for the first few weeks, we're only going to deal with numbers. Okay, so I'm going to clear everything right here. And I'll type in CLC to clear everything, all the text in the command window. Okay, so we already talked about the variable a and s. Okay, I do have a bit more though, so we'll actually go over this now. So let's type in 3 plus 4 in the command window. That'll give us a value of 7, of course. But we can also use our variables in a math operation as well. So right now, our variable a and s, that has a value of 7. So if I type in a and s plus 3, this is going to be registered in MATLAB as 7 plus 3, which is going to be 10. So once I do this though, in our workspace over here, a and s is now going to be updated to a value of 10. Okay, and you see that occurs there. So any questions on that part? Okay, so same kind of thing. If I did x equals 2, I could do x plus 2, that'll be a value of 4. And there we go. I could do x plus 3. So x still has a value of 2, because that's what we assigned it. And this will be an answer of 5. I can also, let's type in, oops, I cleared it, that's why. Okay, let's do x equals 5. I can set a whole new variable here. So I could do y equals x plus 2. So what would we expect here? It would be y equals x plus 2, which is y equals 5 plus 2, so y should be a value of 7. Okay, does that make sense? Or any questions? Okay. Alright, and this is just an example which I basically just did right now. So just remember that we can always reference our variables that we defined. So I could do z equals x plus 7. And this will be, actually I want to do x plus y. So it'll be 5 plus 7, and that'll give us a value of z equals 12. Okay, the question, how do you delete a selected line? So in the command window here, I can't delete like this line here. Once I type in enter, it's going to be registered in Matlab. So I can't delete any selected line just because we're in the command window. But we could do that if we were writing a script. So once you put an enter in the command window, it's going to be saved in the memory. So in this case, if we wanted to clear it, we can only just type in CLC. Okay. All right, so arithmetic operations.
So I accidentally put my X as uppercase and it said that it was unrecognizable. So does it, when we assign numbers to variables like X, Y, and Z, do they have to be lowercase or does it not matter?
No, it doesn't matter. I could do x equals, because I don't think it does. Yeah, it doesn't. But the capitalization does matter. So if I wanted to reference, you see I have lowercase x and capital X. If I want to reference capital X, I need to make sure that I put that capital X.
Okay.
So I'm guessing, like, I don't know, you might have done like x equals 4, capital X equals 4, and then typed in a lowercase x, and then it was undefined.
Yes, that happened.
Okay.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Okay, so other arithmetic operations, so we have exponentiation, multiplication we talked about, right division. So right division is basically, you know, everyday division that we would do in real life. Left division, that's a backslash, and again, that'll be for solving a linear system of equations, which will be later on in the course. And then addition and subtraction, they're just as we would expect. So let's do an exponent. So if I do 3 squared, it's going to be 9. So we just use this caret if we want an exponent. Okay, so precedence. This is something that could kind of stick people up. So what I would personally recommend when you're typing out like let's say a long equation in Matlab, if you want to be sure for which operation is going to occur first, you want to use parentheses when you can, and that'll also help with readability. So this is basically Pemdas here, right? We have parentheses first, exponentiation, multiplication, and division. They have equal precedence going from left to right, and then we have addition and subtraction with equal precedence, so going from left to right. So when you're typing out a math equation, just keep this precedence in mind. But again, it's basically Pemdas, right? I think you guys learned Pemdas, right? In like elementary school. I think there's like different acronyms too. So let's do a few examples though. So we have 8 plus 3 times 5. Okay, so I'm going to do 8 plus 3 times 5. So keep the precedence in mind, right? We have multiplication. That's going to occur first. So this 3 times 5, that's going to be the first thing that Matlab calculates. So it's basically going to do 8 plus 15, and that'll be 23. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the line that we just typed out to be in parentheses 8 plus 3. And then we're going to do times 5. So now I have 8 plus 3 in parentheses, so that's going to be the first thing that's done. Because remember, from the last slide, parentheses, they're going to occur first. Okay, so we're going to do 8 plus 3 times 5, so basically it's going to add 8 plus 3, and then it'll multiply it by 5, so we get a value of, well, 11 times 5, or 55. Okay, we'll do 2 more here, so I'm going to clear this. Let's do 4 squared, so that's our exponent, plus 5 divided by 4 times 2. So here, the first thing that's going to occur is our parentheses, so that's 4 times 2, 8. And then we have, it's going to do that first, but then it's going to do our exponentiation after that, and then it'll do our division, and then the addition. So I kind of, explained it in a comment on this slide as well. So we enter that, we get a value of 16.625, and I'm going to rewrite that line a bit as 4 squared plus 5 divided by 4 times 2. So this will do our exponentiation first, so we're going to have 16 plus 5 divided by 4 times 2, which will basically be 16 plus 5 divided by 4, and then it'll be 5 divided by 4 multiplied by 2, and then it will do the addition. Okay, so you see here, these two lines, they were written out in a different kind of format, so they have a different answer, because in this first line, I had 4 times 2 in parentheses. So make sure you keep precedence in mind, but again, I would recommend, if you want to be more explicit, to use parentheses when you can if you want something to occur first. Yes, you can adjust sig figs. We'll talk about that in a bit. That'll be a formatting command. I think that's in a few slides. And likewise, if you don't want decimals for your answers, you can change that to be a fraction as well. So we're going to talk about formatting options in, I think it's in a few slides. Okay, so you can look through this as well. It's just another example for precedence. Okay, so I actually have an exercise for you. We have 2 of them. So first, I'll let you guys... Actually, we're running out of time, so I'll have you look at this if you want after class. So I give you the answer, but basically I would have you work on this by yourself and make sure you get that correct answer. So I'm going to skip through those, and we'll talk about the assignment and replacement operator. So remember that these slides, they're available on Canvas, so if you want to do that exercise on your own, you can download the slides and then work on that. Okay. So if we want to assign a value, we know how to do that. We type in x equals 3, that'll assign a value of 3 to the variable x. But if I want to replace that value to a different value, I can do x equals 5, and that's now going to update in our workspace here from x equals 3 to x equals 5. We already saw this a bit before, so I'm going to just quickly go through that. Okay, this is important, how we actually assign a value, or the order of it. Okay, so you see, so far I have the variable on the left-hand side, and then I have the equal sign. That's how we always have to do in MATLAB to assign a value. Okay, so we can't do the following. So let me clear this again. I'll do x equals 5. So you see that x is on the left-hand side, and I was able to assign a value of 5 to x. But if I do y equals 5, 5 equals y, this is not going to work because this isn't the correct order to use the equal sign operator. So I wasn't able to assign a value of y equals 5 here because I had y on the right hand side. Okay, so in when we are in math class, we can write it out like 5 equals y, but we can't do that in MATLAB. Same kind of thing if I do x plus 2, x plus 2 equals 20. If we were in math class, we know that we would subtract 2 from both sides, and we would get a value of x equals 18. But in MATLAB, this isn't going to work out for us. So if I press an enter, it's going to give us this error message. It does show us that it goes, hey, you might have meant to use this equality operator, which we'll talk about later on in the course as well. So MATLAB will try to make a guess of what you were trying to do for their error messages. Okay, so the takeaway though is have your variable that you're assigning, have that be on the left-hand side of the equal sign, and you'll be good to go. Okay, if we want to define a variable that we calculate later on, we're just going to basically put some dummy number in the beginning. So if I was going to calculate a value of, I'm going to put AOA, which stands for angle of attack. If I was going to calculate this later on in the script, but I wanted to define this variable now, I could just put any number. It doesn't matter because once I calculate it later on, it's going to overwrite that value for AOA. Okay, let's see. I want to first talk about the formatting stuff, so I'll go over this now, and this will probably be the last thing we talk about today, and then we'll go over the slides that we didn't get to next time. Okay, so there was a question about sig figs and how we could adjust that. So this slide is a bit small. I should have made it bigger, but these are all the formatting commands that we have inside of MATLAB. So let's do 16 divided by 5. Once I do that, MATLAB gives me this answer, which is 3.2. I can change the amount of digits that we have. So MATLAB basically just gives us options of short and long, different kind of variations of that. So I could type in format long, and now if I do 16 divided by 5, you see that it has 16 digits after the, I think it's 16 total digits. So we get 3.2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, yeah, whatever. Okay, so that's the only way, at least to my knowledge, that we can adjust the sig figs in MATLAB. So usually we have format short. So if I do 16 divided by 5, we have 4 decimals after it. And okay, so format bank is when you have 2 after it. So you might want to mess with this. I usually have, I think it's format short G, or maybe it's E. I think I usually have this. Yeah, format short G, and then we just have that 1 decimal in this case. So,
Patrick, I'm just curious. So, what if you? How come so for the sig figs, how come they don't specify how many sig figs for 0? Like, how come they don't specify if you put for sig figs long for or let me re-explain that. How come sig figs doesn't how come they don't really specify how many sig figs of 0 they put if it's long?
Yeah, well they do here. Basically if you change the formatting option in MATLAB, it's already predefined for how many decimals you're going to have. So even though we didn't need 3.2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, etc., because we use that formatting option of long, it's always going to be 16 digits no matter what. So I can kind of think of it like a limitation, I guess, but that's just how it's done in MATLAB. Okay, and then if you want a fraction, you're going to type in a format and then rat for rational. So now if I do 16 divided by 5, it's going to stay as a fraction, 16 divided by 5. Alright, so you can take a look at this slide if you want for all of the formatting commands, but again, usually we just use short or short G like you saw me. That's not on here, but of course it's up to you. It doesn't matter which formatting format you have.
Can you use the format rational to turn a decimal into a fraction or no?
A decimal into a fraction. Yeah, you just have to do format rat, and then it would
Then
be
you like type 0.6663, it'll come out, or 6667. It's gonna come out to 2/3.
0. What?
66666. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see actually. Oh, it already was
Oh.
a fraction here because I did
Oh.
format rat. Yeah. Okay, so
Patrick, did you went over predefined constant?
what do
No,
you mean
you-
by that?
The slide, the predefined constant, the slide. Hey, it's slide 32.
No, I didn't go over that yet.
Okay,
I'll go over
alright.
that next class.
Alright.
Okay, so we're out of time though, so if you guys, we're going to go over the slides that we didn't go over today next time, but you can of course take a sneak peek of that if you want. But yeah, that's all we have for today, so I'll see you guys on Monday, and I'll assign homework sometime next week. Alright, so have a good day guys, and I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, Professor.
Patrick, can I ask you like
Mhm.
a few questions when everyone leaves?
Yeah.
Okay.